Hello, fellow readers, and I, Dark Symphony 777, with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description. Please like, subscribe, and follow, and comment on what you think of the story. As always, this is my opinion. Now, I'm going to keep up the thing with Alice in Wonderland with a fanfiction based off the play/musical WonderLand. It's called The Hatress and the Night by Official Evil Regal. Let me take this off. This is really chafing. And that's better. So let's get started. Madeline Hatter Hattie has always deemed herself as being a responsible and independent woman. The Hatter is a female in this. Okay. She worked hard to get where she was today in Wonderland, and despite her rather hard upbringing in an orphanage, she managed to keep her screws tight instead of loose like the last Mad Hatter. Oh, she's replaced the regular Mad Hatter. Okay. No matter how hard she tried to forget the deed that he and Wonderland did that made her into who she is, she never could. But everyone wonders what made the Mad Hatress so mad and wicked. Many guessed it was due to never experiencing love, while others say she was just born evil. Even those who did know her before her rise to power have turned against her, such as the White Rabbit who she had rescued from getting his furry head chopped off by Cora, the Queen of Hearts, and then there was the Cheshire Cat who often had run-ins with Cora, who she convinced was merely a helpless soul that could do her bidding, which Cora, obsessed with power, decreed to, as she treats him like her own personal slave. Hatter stared outside her office arched window down at Looking Glass Land, and began to remember back to when she was still a happy, young, and hopeful, idealistic girl before she became this wicked person. Back to the day where she was just Madeline Hattie in love with Jack the White Knight. How happy they were till it all went wrong. Your Hatress, we brought in the god you requested, one of Hatter's guards said, stopping her out of her thoughts before she could go down memory land. One error! One! Should be lane. Hatter turned around and stared. Two grammar errors! It should be stared. At the main cause of her suffering, on his knees with his head held high, and even if she didn't want to admit it, handsome as ever. Leave us, Hatter said, as the guard nodded before scurrying out of the room. Hatter looked down at Jack and shook her head. What am I gonna do with you? She said, shaking her head. You said dying once would be enough, so I'm just waiting, Jack replied. So you're really gonna just die for some girl you just met, not even for a whole 24 hours? Hatter asked, betrayal deep in her voice, not even bothering to hide her emotions anymore. It was just the two of them and this conversation. Neither would hold nothing back. She needs my help, Hatter, Jack said. Oh, so now you decide to be the helping kind, huh? Now that you've become a knight and tasting the good life, you're the helping kind? Hatter asked as tears threatened to gather in her eyes. Jack wanted nothing more than to pull his Maddie into a hug, but it was difficult when you're on two different playing fields. Maddie, he started. No, don't call me that. Maddie's dead. I'm the Mad Hatter. I thought it was Mad Hatress. It is Mad Hatress. So, is she the Mad Hatter or is she the Mad Hatress? Let me finish this. Nothing more than the pain and grief that of Alice brought to life, she yelled at him. So this Mad Hatter is Alice? Okay, I'm now officially confused. I know nothing about Wonderland the play, so you can throw as much blame as you want on me. You don't know that, Hatter yelled, shooting him a glare so strong that if looks could kill, Jack would swear he'd be ashes by now, but he refused to back down. It was about time he and Madeline had this conversation. I do, Jack said. How? Damn it, because I love you, Madeline, Jack admitted. No, you don't. I saw the way you were looking at Alice, Madeline shouted. I thought I loved her because she reminded me of what we used to have before hell broke loose in Wonderland. And despite the past and what you've done, I still love you, Jack told her. Then why are you helping them take me down? Hatter asked. Because this isn't you, and I won't let them hurt you, Jack said. I bet you will, Hatter said sarcastically. What's that supposed to mean? Hatter asked. I mean... I screwed myself up. What's that supposed to mean? Jack asked. I almost wished that hadn't just... 3 hours. Almost wish he hadn't just said those words, as Madeline's eyes darkened and narrowed. Jack remained silent, as he knew exactly where this conversation was headed to. Even though he never wanted to have it, now would be as good a time as ever. Do you know why I hate Alice? Why I dislike her daughter so damn much? She asked. Maddie, if I knew then what I knew now, I would have never hurt you or left you, Jack said. Wow. So it would have made a difference if you knew that I was pregnant? Pregnant? Wait, what? Okay. When you decided to up and leave me for night school, you fell on nights with your parties and one-time girls. I needed you there. You knew that every dark thought or feeling Alice had, I felt. And during those times, she was going through one bad relationship after the next, family dying, and the stress her life gave her. It took my son from me. Our son! Hatter cried as she punched Jack in the chest and his arms and everywhere else below the neck, and Jack could see it, all her walls come crashing down around her, and he finally saw his Madeline, full of anger and despair. He lifted his arms and threw them over her body, allowing him to pull her close to him, as he cried with her for the loss of their son and the loss of their love. Madeline could do nothing but scratch at his jacket in frustration, crying into his chest as he held her. Why should I suffer while she gets to be happy? She took my son, and now every time I see her daughter, I see your face, and her face combined to make such a perfect child. Madeline cried harder as Jack rubbed her back. Madeline, I loved you. I still do. I was just too blinded by my own goals. I never noticed where you needed me the most, and I would have stayed and helped you through it all, he said, kissing the side of her head. Then the queen was always next to my ear, whispering words of doubt. She told me you never loved me, and that love was nothing but weakness, and I'm just now realizing how wrong she is, and I hate her all the more, Madeline said. If the queen was the only one on that list, I released the blade for you to drop on her. I'm sorry, Madeline. I'm so sorry, Jack said. Even still, I forgive you, but now there's no turning back, so I'm letting you go, Madeline said as she snapped her fingers, causing the chains to fall off as Jack rubbed his hands. What do you mean? Jack asked. I'm letting you out of this. Go back to Wonderland. You'll be safe. I can't leave, Madeline. I'm a hero. I left once, and we see how this ended up as a result. But I'm not leaving you again. Come with me. Let's go somewhere else. Start a new life, Jack said, grabbing Madeline's hands, kissing them. Let Alice and Chloe go, he pleaded. I'll never be free from her if I do that, Madeline said. Yes, you will. 2 spaces can't occupy the same space, right? So what if 2 was to become as one with the other, Jack said. What are you asking, Jack? Let's go to her world. The 2 of you can be like twins. Different, but one and the same. How will we do that? Almost every rabbit hole is sealed up by the Queen's guards, and they'll know something is up if I tell them to leave. Do you trust me, Madeline? Jack asked. Jack, do you love me, Madeline Hattie? Yes, Jack, I still love you. Even after all this, I love you. Then trust me when I say we're going to be together, Jack said, kissing her passionately, wrapping his arms around her waist, pulling her close to him. Madeline's hands ran up in his hair as he felt a passion that's been deprived her from her for the last decade, and this became intensified till Madeline pulled away from Jack, who looked like a wounded puppy denied a treat. Jack, not here. Wait till your plan has worked, she told him. Are you sure, Maddie Hattie? There are no guards outside, right? Jack said before pulling her in for another kiss, before she broke that one off, causing Jack to groan. Jack, if your plan works, we'll have plenty of time for that later. But what is the plan? Madeline said. All right, here it is. Here they were, the moment of truth Jack and Madeline had been waiting for. Jack had told Alice his plan and gave her his and Madeline's story, which brought her to tears, before she agreed to go along with it. Cora, the Queen of Hearts, had arrived as planned, and Alice had shown her the scroll, and Jack and Madeline spared a nervous glance at one another. As if Cora decided to behead her, they would make a run for it, but if she chose to banish her, they would proceed as planned. Cora called out her banishment, which caused the two to breathe a small sigh of relief. Come home to me, Alice said, outstretching her hand to Madeline, who nodded, going along with it. Yes, Alice, I would like that. Take my hand, Madeline said, before snatching Alice over to her, holding a knife to her neck, careful not to cut her, if I have to live in eternal torment. Then so do you. We'll be together forever, she said in an eerie voice. No one noticed as Alice slipped a compass in Madeline's coat pocket. As if on cue, the Cheshire and Caterpillar appeared, screaming out Hatter, which Madeline feigned a shock turning to see. As Jack pulled Alice from Madeline before he and Madeline pretended to struggle in power. Banish her! Jack yelled. I condemn your soul! Cora yelled as a bright green portal opened underneath Jack and Madeline, who fell in, but quickly caught one another's hand. Madeline reached into her pocket and pulled out the compass Alice slipped her, and thought of Alice's home. As they saw the ending of the portal, they soon found themselves lying on grass of the park across the street from Alice's home. We did it, babe, Jack yelled as he held Madeline up and pulled her in for a kiss. Madeline stared around the city of Queens, which was still nighttime, but they could tell that it was too late at night. Yes, we did, Madeline replied. Hey, guys, they heard a familiar voice yell, before turning to see Alice and Chloe waving at them from the entrance of her apartment. They ran over. I'm so glad the two of you made it, Alice said, giving Jack a hug, before going to Madeline, who smiled nervously, stretching out her hand. No, Madeline, a handshake won't do. We're like twins now, only we don't look alike or act alike. We're two halves of a whole, so you're my sister here, whether you like it or not, Alice said. Madeline was speechless, as she had never really gave it much thought of the bond between Alice and herself besides the pain she's felt, but after all Madeline's done to her, Alice was still able to forgive her and even declare them as sisters, finally something she's never had but always wanted deep down. She nodded as tears began to prick at her eyes before Alice moved in to hug her, which she returned. Thank you, and I'm sorry for everything, sister. Madeline said the word, causing a bigger smile to erupt on Alice's face. I'm sorry too, sister, for your son's passing, and every dark feeling my life has caused you, Alice replied. Thank you, Madeline replied before looking at Chloe, who hid behind Alice in an attempt to not be seen by Madeline. When Alice pulled her out, Chloe, I know this is going to be a huge adjustment, but if you really look at it, you got an aunt now, Alice said, shocking Madeline, Jack, and Chloe, who stared at her in complete disbelief. What do you mean? Well, you were there with me. It wasn't a dream. This is my other half. Or should I say my sister? So she's your aunt. I know it's confusing, but trust me, Alice began. I know, Mom. I get it now. This is Aunt Maddie with us, Chloe said with a bright smile that warmed Madeline's heart as she nodded at the title. And I'm Uncle Jack, Jack said. I remember you, so you two were together, Chloe asked, causing a blush to appear on the adult's cheeks, who nodded. Cool, I'll go tell Daddy right away, Chloe said, bouncing up the stairs. Well, Maddie, Jack, you two can stay here as long as you need to, Alice said. We don't want to intrude on you and your husband, Alice, Madeline said. Oh, it's all right. Having another man in the house would make him very happy. The two of you can drink and watch games, and he would love to have a tomboy as a sister-in-law. Somebody who can play professional at cards like a queen, but has the skill of a king. No offense on the tomboy thing, Maddie, Alice said. None taken, but are you sure? Is there enough room? Madeline asked. My mother-in-law is about to move out to return back to her own house, so you two can have her room. Who knows, you two, along with my husband, myself, and my daughter, might just end up buying one big house to stay in, Alice said. Thanks, Alice, Jack said. I'll go tell him everything right now. Come on in, Alice said before walking through the doorway, which she left open. Oh, God. Third parts. Whatever. Oh, God, my throat's dry from talking. Okay. Madeline had a smile on her face as Jack pulled her close to him, wrapping his arms tightly around her waist. As her arms wound around his neck, what are you smiling about? Jack asked her. Nothing. It's just for the first time I don't feel so mad, Madeline said, with a laugh. Well, I'm definitely mad for you. This is a new chance for us. Marriage, have kids, house with a white porch, Jack said. What are you saying, Jack? Madeline asked, tired enough from Wonderland and all of its riddles. However, a gasp left her as Jack pulled away and knelt down on one knee, pulling a ring from his pocket that he's carried with him every day since waiting for a second chance with Madeline. Madeline Catherine Schindel-Haddy, that's a mouthful. Would you do me the honor of becoming Mrs. Ritchie? Richie Rich! I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. He asked, and watched as Madeline took the ring in from him and slid it onto her finger, admiring it. What do you think, Jack Darren Richie? She asked, using his full name as he used hers, causing him to leap up and swirl her in the air before kissing her passionately under the stairs of Queens, New York. Excuse me. Let's go inside and tell everyone, okay? Jack said, kissing her with each word that left his mouth. Madeline eagerly nodded before he grabbed her hand and pulling her inside the apartment and closing the door. Later that night, on the lit-out couch, they were perfectly content in one another's arms. Alice's husband, Jackson's mother, was moving out in the morning, glad to finally be able to return to her own house. Now that her son and Alice have made up and were going to still be living with family, Jackson, as Alice said, had no problem with Jack and Madeline moving in and told them to stay as long as they needed to. As long as they need to. Madeline's head rested on Jack's chest as sleep slowly began to overtake the both of them. I love you, Maddie Hattie, Jack said. I love you too, White Knight Jack, Madeline replied. This is a new beginning, a fresh start, old love burning strong, but a new life, and they couldn't be happier with it. So, that's the story. I thought it was okay. I wouldn't really want people to read it because it's like I couldn't make heads or tails over it. It looked like at point the story was kind of contradicting itself. While it was still kind of okay, I wouldn't call it great, but I wouldn't call it bad. I mean, I wouldn't call it really bad because it was like at most it was a mediocre love story that could have been done a million times. That could have been done better. On a scale of 1 to 5, I'd give it a 2.3. And that's my reading of The Hatress and the Knight. I'm sorry, it's just not my thing. As always, if you tell me what you think. If you have another story you want me to read or review, please leave it in the comment section below. So this has been Dark Symphony 777, my loyal readers, and